All right, class 7.4, day 2 notes, continuing on with some special right triangles. So the 45, 45, 90 formula, remember you have to memorize this. I'll write it out again. The hypotenuse equals the leg times the square root of 2. So the 45, 45, 90 triangle, the hypotenuse, I didn't spell that right, oh my goodness. Hypotenuse equals leg times the square root of 2. So in our first example, we see that it's 45, 45, 90. We have a value of x at our hypotenuse and 6 at our leg. So we know our hypotenuse is the leg times the square root of 2. So x would equal the leg, 6, times the square root of 2, which is just 6 square root of 2. In our next example, our hypotenuse is 2, and x is our leg. Notice again, we know it's a 45, 45, 90 because both legs are x. So we know it's an isosceles triangle, and since it's an isosceles right triangle, we know it's 45, 45, 90. So now this time though, x, we're trying to find the leg. The first example, we're trying to find the hypotenuse. We just multiply whatever the leg is by the square root of 2. This time, we know the hypotenuse is 2, but we don't know the leg. So if our hypotenuse equals leg times the square root of 2, to find the leg, we must divide the hypotenuse by the square root of 2. So then now we have a square root in the denominator on the bottom. We've got to get rid of that. So to get rid of a square root in the denominator, remember we need to multiply top and bottom by that square root, by whatever is on the bottom. So 2 times the square root of 2 is 2 square root of 2. Square root of 2 times the square root of 2 is the square root of 4, which is just 2. So we get 2 square root of 2 over 2, and our 2's cancel out. So x just equals the square root of 2. And so just think about that. If I then multiply the square root of 2 by the square root of 2, we get the square root of 4, which is 2, and that is our hypotenuse. So x, or our leg, in this case, just equals the square root of 2. Our next example. Here we have two congruent angles. So we know it's an isosceles triangle. When the base angles are the same, then those sides are the same. And we have an isosceles triangle. And we see it's a right triangle, so we know it's a 45, 45, 90. Again, we're solving for a leg. X is a leg. 9 square root of 2 is the hypotenuse. So just like we did on the previous one, we take whatever our hypotenuse is and divide it by the square root of 2. So x is going to equal 9 square root of 2 divided by the square root of 2. And then your square root of 2 will cancel out because you've got it on the top and the bottom, and you're just left with x equals 9. So as we're doing these, pause the video, try and figure them out on your own, and then come back and solve. Or come back and see how we did. All right, this next triangle. we have a right angle, so we know we've got 90 degrees, and we see one of the angles is 45. The only other possible measurement for our other angle is 45. So we know we have a 45-45 triangle. X and Y are both going to be the same because it's an isosceles triangle, and they're both representing the legs of our triangle. So for X and Y, they're going to be the same. So we've got our legs here. 15 is our hypotenuse. And we can just, when finding, or we know the hypotenuse, we're looking for the leg, we need to divide by the square root of 2. X will equal 15 divided by the square root of 2. Since we've got a square root sign in the denominator, we need to multiply top and bottom by that. So the square times square root of 2 over square root of 2. That gives us 15 square root of 2 over the square root of 4. Square root of 4 is 2. So we get 15 square root of 2 over 2. 15 over 2 does not simplify. So X and Y are both 15 square root of 2 over 2. "30, 60, 90 triangles. And here are the formulas you need to memorize. You need to remember these. The hypotenuse equals 2 times the short leg. Or the short leg times 2. The long leg equals the short leg times the square root of 3. So let's look at some examples. All right, remember with the 30, 60, 90 triangle. So if we've got 30 and 90 here, then I know this one over here is 60. The side opposite your right angle is your hypotenuse, so that's going to be X. The side opposite 30 is your short leg. That means the side opposite 60 is the long leg. So we have two things we need to solve for. We need to solve for the hypotenuse, and we need to solve for the long leg. We can solve for the hypotenuse first. X equals, so remember our hypotenuse formula was 2 times the short leg. So we know it's going to be 2 times whatever our short leg is, which is 7. So X equals 14. To solve for Y, we need to use the formula for the long leg, which is short leg times the square root of 3. So for Y, it's going to equal our short leg, which is 7 times the square root of 3. So Y just equals 7 square root of 3. Number 2, again, we have an X and a Y. So let's identify what our hypotenuse, short leg, and long leg are. Hypotenuse is always opposite our right angle, so that's going to be Y. Our short leg is always opposite our 30-degree angle, so that's X. And then our long leg is opposite the 60-degree angle. So that's 6 square root 3. All right, so we can solve for X and Y. If I solve for X first, I'm using my short leg. Sorry, I'm looking for my short leg. But our two formulas are only to help us solve for the hypotenuse and the long leg, right? But if I know either of those values, the hypotenuse or the long leg, then I can use that to still find the short leg. So we know what the long leg is. The long leg is 6 square root of 3. So if I write that up like, if I plugged it into my formula, it would be 6 square root 3 equals x times the square root of 3. And if we needed to get x by itself, then I need to divide both sides by the square root of 3. Square root of 3 will just cancel out, so x will equal 6. So now we have our short leg. We can use that to real easy find our hypotenuse, find y. So y will equal 2 times our short leg, and our short leg is 6, so y equals 12. Just a couple more examples. Number 3, we know it's a 30, 60, 90 triangle because we've got a right angle and an angle that's 60 degrees, so that tells me my other angle at the top is 30. My hypotenuse is going to be at letter N. It's the side opposite our right angle. M is going to be our short leg. It is opposite 30 degrees. And 5 will be our long leg. It is opposite 60 degrees. Remember your formulas. We'll want to solve for the short leg first, since we need to know what the short leg is to find our hypotenuse. But to find our short leg, we can use the long leg. So our long leg is 5, plugging that into our formula, so we would have 5 equals m times the square root of 3. So I can just divide both sides by the square root of 3. It gives me m equals 5 over the square root of 3. We want to get rid of that radical in the denominator, so we've got to multiply by square root of 3 over the square root of 3. So then m equals 5 square root of 3 over the square root of 9, which is 3. M will equal 5 square root of 3 over 3. And that is simplified. Now we can use that to help us find n. Because we know m, or we know n is our hypotenuse, and our hypotenuse is twice whatever our short leg is. M is our short leg. So n equals 5 square root of 3 over 3 times 2. So I multiply those together. N equals 10 square root of 3 over 3. And that's our hypotenuse. And then our last example, we've got a 30, 60, 90 triangle. All of our angles are nicely marked for us. Just need to identify our hypotenuse, short leg, and long leg. Look first at the side opposite our right angle, that is C. So that's our hypotenuse. Our side opposite 30 degrees is A, so that's our short leg. And then our long leg is 12. So again, we know our long leg, but not the short leg or the hypotenuse. So we'll use our long leg to help us find the short leg, and then use our short leg to help us find the hypotenuse. So to set up the formula with our long leg is 12. That equals our short leg, A, times the square root of 3. So to get A by itself, we need to divide by the square root of 3 on both sides. So we get 12 over the square root of 3 equals A. We want to get rid of the radical in the denominator. So we've got to multiply by the square root of 3 over the square root of 3, which which gives us 12 square root of 3 over square root of 9, which is just 3. And then we can simplify that fraction to 4. 3 goes into 12 4 times. So a equals 4 square root of 3. Now we need to find c, which is our hypotenuse. And our hypotenuse equals 2 times our short leg. And our short leg was 4 square root of 3. So c equals 8 square root of 3. All right, that's it on the notes. Make sure you do your homework.